At this afternoon's top stories, St. Kitts Nevis law enforcement leadership benefits from RSS Executive Development Course. St. Lucia's security minister addresses revoked visa claims, and Syrian refugees face health crisis. Good afternoon. Welcome to the ZIZ Midday Newscast. Today is Monday, the 10th of October 2016. I am Shaira Flanders. Nationally, 2 members of the High Command of the Royal St. Christopher and Nevis Police Force and a senior officer in Her Majesty's Customs and Excise Department are currently in Barbados attending the Senior Executive Development Course being conducted by the Regional Security System Training Institute, or RSSTI. The 2-week course is being held at the University of the West Indies Cave Hill School of Business and is designed to equip the senior leadership of the region's national security organizations, police, defense force, prison, fire and customs services with the training to steer change and maximize results within their organizations. During the 2 weeks, the participants will cover topics such as strategic decision making, how to lead strategic change initiatives, leading collaborative teams, cross-cultural and cross-generational team management, emotional intelligence, and other relevant subject area matters. Attending the course from St. Kitts and Nevis are Assistant Commissioners of Police, or ACP, Mr. Terrence James, ACP Mr. Andre Mitchell, and Her Majesty's Customs and Excise Department Senior Assistant Comptroller, AG Miss Lonlia Archibald. The Rotary Community Corps of Bastia, or RCC, has announced its inauguration. The RCC is a team of non-Rotarian men and women who are committed to their community's long-term development and self-sufficiency. The main principle of the program is to enable RCC members to personally address and solve problems in the areas where they work or live. It is sponsored by the Rotary Club of Lyamiga and is one of Rotary's partners in service. The RCC will assist the Rotary Club of Lyamiga with community-based projects that will substantially improve the quality of life of its citizens. The executive consists of Miss Shani Reed, leader, Miss Kerry Green, deputy leader, Mr. Jermaine Hendrickson, secretary, Miss Veneries McCall, treasurer, other executive members and non-members. Officials within the Ministry of International Trade are pleased with the steps that have been taken to afford game developer Xavia Shaw the opportunity to attend the upcoming Global Services Exporters Conference in Chile. The St. Kitts and Nevis Coalition of Service Industries selected Shaw as the perfect candidate to represent the Federation because of his passion for game development. Jasmine Weeks, Director of Trade Research, said she was very impressed that as a young person, Shaw is very well focused and believes that this serves as encouragement for other young persons.
We believe that this is something that is of encouragement for the younger persons. We would want to express the importance of that particular area of focus, the service industry, how important it is. We believe that that is an area that should be introduced into the schools, into the education system, in their curriculum at the very early stage, from primary school level.
Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Trade, Charlestown Edwards, also congratulated the young man.
Quite often, young men are stigmatized, and therefore having someone who has shown some positivity in terms of moving upwards, we will continue to support as much young entrepreneurs as we can.
The Global Services Exporters Conference in Chile will be held from October 12th to the 13th. It will be fully funded by the EU through Caribbean Export Development Agency.
We are 100 feet up in the air.
Whoa, monkey daughter. You know it.
The donkey want water. Bring back your daughter. Bring back your water.
I think the next generation is a great motivator. I'm not done yet. You know, I'm far from done.
Up and out, please bring your chest. Bring your chest. Bring your chest. Man down.
Let me go!
Yo, this is Shaggy, and you're watching the Tony Thorne Show. Yeah, #1, Mr. Lover says so. All right.
Tune in.
less we infecting more.
Hi, I'm Carla Burridge. Join me weekdays at 7 p.m. for Zeliza's evening newscast. We'll let you know what's happening in your community.
And on the regional scene, the People's National Congress Reform is making use of its clout in the coalition to assist small contractors and engage the public more frequently. More in this report.
Guyana's significant oil find has the potential to transform Guyana from one of the poorest nations in the Western Hemisphere to one of the richest, according to the United States Ambassador to Guyana, Perry Holloway. The ambassador's assessment came as the U.S. formally announced its efforts to support the government of Guyana to prepare for submission of its candidacy to the Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative's EITI.
The United States Embassy is proud to provide the Carter Center with a grant in the amount of $297,000 US dollars to facilitate a series of programs with the Ministry of Natural Resources that will help Guyana to comply and develop an acceptable candidate submission for the EITI Secretariat.
The EITI is an international standard for transparency in extractive industry payments and receipts. In participating EITI countries, companies are required to publish what they pay to governments, and governments are required to publish what they receive from companies. The body also sits to ensure that natural resource wealth is translated into development for the local population. Back to the grant. The Carter Center has been selected to implement the U.S. government project. The implementation of the project basically signals a return of the Carter Center to Guyana.
The center's program will involve collaboration with the Ministry of Natural Resources and Guyana's multi-stakeholder group to build stakeholder and public understanding, capacity, and the dialogue necessary for Guyana to comply with the EITI.
Jason Calder, country representative for the Carter Center. Minister of Natural Resource Raphael Trotman said that EITI is both right and necessary to be implemented.
The government of Guyana welcomes the government of the United States of America's support of our efforts to improve the management of the operations in our extractive sector. This grant from the U.S. government will allow the Carter Center, a good friend of Guyana, to launch a capacity building project which is intended to enable Guyana to submit its application for EITI candidacy and thereafter to maintain its participation.
The Natural Resources Minister made it clear that Guyana is committed to transparency and accountability within the extractive sector and will work with the Carter Center to ensure that Guyana's benchmark is met. ExxonMobil predicts that oil will not start flowing until 2021. Handel Duncan, HGP Nightly News.
St. Lucia's minister with responsibility for security has been clearing the air on rumors that his U.S. visa has been revoked. DBS's Kendall Burton has more.
National Security Minister Herman Francis says rumors of the revocation of his U.S. visa are not true. His predecessor, Victor Philip Lacobinier, had to make similar denials after media reports that his United States visa was revoked as a result of U.S. concern about alleged human rights abuses by local police. Lacobinier called the rumor a calculated lie designed by the then-opposition UWP and its media operatives to destroy his reputation. While the new minister has not pointed any fingers, he says the rumors may be based on legitimate fears emanating from the decision by the U.S. to suspend support for the local police and the reported ban on senior police officers entering the U.S.
Sometimes ministers are traveling here and we're not even too sure. And sometimes you ask me that question and I was told that my visa was revoked. And yesterday when I came back from Haiti, having traveled through Miami, I was never asked whether I got any difficulties in accessing Miami. But I was able to go there. Up to last week I was in Mexico dealing with a seminar on identity of young people. where persons that under the age of 5 years has to be registered so that persons have an identity. And I got through fairly well.
Meanwhile, the minister says St. Lucia needs to look at improving its own border security. He says the government has a number of plans to do so, including the creation of a single border control unit to replace the immigration and customs officers at ports of entry.
If you've traveled overseas to the United States and other places, the immigration, customs, border control, they're almost similar. So when you first come in, you meet the immigration officer to take the information from you and so on. But by the time you get to the baggage area, that information is filtered down there. So sometimes you don't even have to open your bag or anything. They can allow you free passage. So it makes the process much quicker.
He also spoke of plans to introduce a new technology to improve border security and airport efficiency.
We now have the APIS report, and we want to try and get our passports to be sufficiently adequate that we can get the biometrics so that your eyes scan, your face, your facial, your fingerprints and so on. As long as you have that, then we can allow you to go through. But you see, we are a tourist destination, and the quicker the persons can come through customs, the better for us.
Given the increasingly unstable global environment, tighter border security has become an increasingly salient focus for governments the world over. In the meantime, the minister says resolving the impacts and Lambert's cases and restoring St. Lucia's credibility on human rights are equal priorities. For the DBS News World, Kendall Burton reporting.
And on the international scene, about 1.5 million Syrians are in refugee camps in Lebanon, where doctors are warning of a major health crisis. Al Jazeera's Imtiaz Tayab reports from eastern Lebanon.
They are some of the youngest and most vulnerable Syrian refugees. They are also sick. Doctors at this mobile health clinic have come to this camp in eastern Lebanon to prescribe medicines. Most here suffer from stomach ailments and skin diseases, but those with more serious conditions or who suffer from chronic illnesses won't find help here.
The problem they are facing is what we call the secondary and tertiary health care, which means that if the doctor wants some medical exam, let's say some blood test, some scan or whatever, here we have to refer them because we cannot provide all of this.
There are over 3,600 refugee camps across Lebanon, which is now home to nearly 1.5 million Syrian refugees. The United Nations Human Rights Agency has appealed for close to $2 billion in aid. So far, international donors have committed around 40%, which means services like healthcare have been sharply cut.
Shrinking budgets have led the UN's refugee agency to introduce a set of criteria for those seeking medical treatment. But that criteria set is fairly restrictive, and even then, those who qualify still have to pay 25% of their treatment themselves, something few refugees can afford.
Amsha Hussein Salal suffers from chronic bronchial asthma. Her condition is so bad that she rarely leaves the tent she shares with her daughter and husband. She's lived here for nearly 4 years after fleeing from her home in Aleppo. These are the medicines she needs in order to help her breathe, medication she rarely has enough of.
The medicines I need are very expensive. I have no income and don't get any support, except sometimes from the UN. So you can see it's impossible for me to get medicines. In fact, the other day at 4 a.m. it was so hot in this tent, I couldn't breathe. I had to take a cab to a medical center for oxygen.
Healthcare workers in Lebanon are warning of a major health crisis if Syrian refugees don't receive more support. But with international donations drying up, many will continue to be vulnerable to illnesses. Imtiaz Tayab, Al Jazeera, at the Dalmia refugee camp in eastern Lebanon.
Emergency rescue teams are searching through the rubble of collapsed homes in eastern China. 8 people were killed in Wenzhou in Zhejiang province. 5 have been rescued so far. Al Jazeera's Adrian Brown reports from Beijing.
A now familiar scene, the aftermath of yet another building's collapse in China. Rescue workers aren't sure how many people are still missing, because many are thought to be unregistered workers from other parts of China. In some places, the piles of masonry and concrete are up to 8 meters high. It was just after 4 a.m. on Monday morning when the flimsy structures came crashing down. State media say the buildings were more than 40 years old and had recently been earmarked for demolition, so it's unclear why people were still living here. Reports also say that over the years additional floors had been added without planning approval. China has seen many building collapses in recent years, with some blamed on low quality and often illegal construction. Adrian Brown, Al Jazeera, Beijing.
And now for the weather. Present weather is cloudy with light showers. Winds are blowing gently from the southwest at 12 miles per hour. Seas are moderate with waves up to 5 feet. Today will be mostly cloudy with a moderate chance of showers and thunderstorms. Tonight will be partly cloudy with a slight chance of showers. Sunset today will be at 5:52 p.m. and the sunrise tomorrow will be at 6:03 a.m. That brings us to the end of the ZIZ Midday Newscast. Join us this evening for these stories and more in detail. Thank you so much for tuning in. I am Shaira Flanders. Have a good day.